Hello students, this is Waqar Ahmed, your economics teacher from Cambridge International School, Dasuha. And in today's class, we will start chapter number 1, Indian Economy on the Eve of Independence from the book Indian Economic Development. And in this chapter, we will discuss the economic after effects of British rule of 200 years. And to give you a basic understanding, I sent a video of debate in which Mr. Tharoor raised many points, but he substantiated his claims by giving economic data. So, we all know that Britishers exploited India in all spheres of life, be it political, social or economic. But we will be discussing the economic effect or economic exploitation of Britishers of India and its pupil. So, let us start. We will be discussing following topics or following sectors of the economy. First, we will be talking about low level of economic development under the colonial rule, its causes. Then we will talk about agricultural sector, industrial sector, foreign trade, demographic conditions means data about the population, then occupational structures, which type of jobs were people doing at that point of time, and in the end we will be talking about infrastructure. So, we will be covering these 7 main topics in this chapter. So, we all know that economic history has its own place in the study of economics. The state of Indian economy, which we see today, India is considered to be the second fastest growing economy in the world since last 20 years. But it is vital or it is important to know the history of Indian economy. The situation we are seeing today is not the making of last 2, 3 or 4 years. It is the making of last 70 years. So, we must be aware that what was the economic situation when India became independent to fully understand the impact, the work, the policies adopted and the work done by our economists in these 70 years. So, the point is that it is important to know the past, the history of economy to comprehend the present development in its complete sense. Okay? So, when Britishers came to India, their whatever their political or religious or spiritual claims were, but their main motive was to make India a supplier of raw material for the fastest growing industries of the world, which were at that point of time in England. And as you must have studied in your class 10th SST or social science, that industrial revolution started from UK, from England, and particularly from the cities of Manchester and Sheffield. So, new industries were being established there, and all those industries required raw material. So, the main aim of British occupation was to make India a supplier of raw material and nothing more than that, whatever their claims were at that point of time. So, first of all, what were the causes of low level of economic development under the Britishers or under the colonial rule? So, we all know that at that point of time, even now, agriculture is the mainstay of Indian economy. Still, Indian economy is known as agrarian economy. At that point of time, around 80% of the people were engaged in agriculture. Other than agriculture, India was very famous for its handicrafts, and at that point of time, the share of India in total world trade was around 23%, and most of these 23% was handicrafts made by the artisans of India. At that point of time, Dhaka, which is the capital of Bangladesh, was in India, and their weavers produced the finest quality of cotton known as muslin, MUSLIN, which was considered the finest ever produced cotton, and it is just an example of the craftsmanship the artistry of Indian handicrafts and Indian artisans. So all those things were the mainstay of Indian economy, and those products were famous worldwide. They have got a reputation which was kind of impossible to beat. When Britishers came, their aim was, or the main point was, to protect their industries. And how were they able to protect their industries? By destroying Indian industries, by destroying the handicraft industry of India, and that was the policy adopted by them at that point of time. This protective policy adopted by Britishers changed the very nature of Indian economy. Earlier, Indians were supplier of finished products, handicraft, artistry products, paintings, and some other things. Now, Britishers made India a supplier of raw material for the products being produced in their factories in Britain. So the very nature of Indian economy changed during Britishers. Earlier we were supplier of finished products. After Britishers came into India, we became supplier of raw materials only. So these were the main points as far as the British policy is considered. And then some Indian economists, or let us say some Anglo-Indian economists, tried to check the rate of economic development or economic growth, and some notable names were, as you can see on your screen, Dadabhai Naoroji, who was the founding member of Indian National Congress, and he was a man of many fields. Then William Digby, Findlay Shiraz, V.K. R.V. Rao, who later became the first dean of Delhi School of Economics, which is considered the finest economics school of Asia, and R.C. Desai. And out of these, we will talk about Mr. Rao. He estimated that during the first half of 20th century, means from 1901 to 1950, the aggregate real output, means national income, increased by year on year at 2%, whereas the per capita output, or we can say in more simple terms, per capita income increased only by half a percentage point year on year, which we can say is, if we compare in today's terms, since last 30 years Indian economy has been growing at the rate of 6% to 9% year on year. And that point of time we were growing at a rate of not more than 2%. So you can see the difference, and that was the cause of low level of economic development of our economy at that point of time. Now let us talk about agricultural stagnation, or why there was no growth, no increase in agricultural output at that point of time. The first cause is, examiner might ask you to write the causes and might ask you to explain the causes. So we will be discussing them in detail. First is land settlement systems. When Britishers came into India, they were far and few in numbers. There were not more than 2 lakhs Britishers at any point of time in India. So initially there were very few Britishers. So what they did, they controlled a vast territory and then gave that territory to some Indian landlords, zamindars, as we call them, used to call them zamindars, and it was the duty of zamindars to collect the rent and give it to the Britishers. So there were 3 types of systems to manage the land: zamindari system, Raiyatwadi system, and Mahalwadi system. Here the vastly used system was zamindari system, and in this zamindari system the Britishers made one landlord owner, kind of owner of a particular area, and it was the duty of that zamindar to collect the lagan. Amir Khan also made a movie by this name, which was immensely popular, super duper hit, and it was the story of that lagan, that rent, that exploitation, and all that put through Bollywood lenses. So the duty of zamindars was to collect the lagan or rent, whatever are the circumstances. The full focus of zamindar was to collect lagan, what may come. The zamindar was not concerned with the social or economic situation of the farmers or the laborers working on the fields. His one and only aim was to collect the lagan, collect the rent, and give it to the or pay to the Britishers. So it kind of gave rise to social tensions. Basically, whatever zamindar was or howsoever rich he was part of Indian society. He was an Indian by birth, so he was one of us. He was one of us, whereas Britishers came from abroad, they were foreigners. So zamindars, even being one among us, still exploited the laborers or the farmers. So it kind of gave rise to social tensions. The poor people started to think zamindar as agent of Britishers. And if you will dig deep, then you will know, as you can see on your screen, that it was actually not in the hand of zamindars. It was kind of an agreement that if zamindar did not pay the rent or lagan to the Britishers at the determined date, then it was the duty of zamindar. If he is not able to collect the rent from farmers, Britishers were not considered or were not concerned with that. It was the duty of zamindars to collect the rent and pay to Britishers. Britishers will charge 100 rupees or 500 rupees, whether the zamindar is taking that money from farmers or giving from his own pocket. So if you will see the complete picture, basically zamindar was also helpless. If he is not collecting rent from farmers, then he need to pay that rent or that lagan from his own pocket. And who likes to pay from their own pockets? Now the second cause of agricultural stagnation or backwardness of agricultural sector was low productivity. Why low productivity? Because there were no irrigation facilities, fertilizers, chemical fertilizers were not used, the instruments or the tools, whatever we can say them, were minimal and primitive. Means new instruments and tools were not being used by the farmers. So all this add up and increased the helplessness of farmers, first thing. Second, Britishers did develop some irrigation facilities, some canals and rivers, they did all that, but that was kind of insufficient among the vast fields of India. So still India or Indian agriculture, Indian farmers were dependent on rain. If rain is good, output is good. Rain is not good, output is kind of not good or abysmal. And then the main point which I considers the main point is that there was no incentive among the farmers to increase their output, because let us just for an example say, if they increased their output, they knew that zamindars and Britishers will increase rent. So after paying the rent, they will still not have anything substantial in their hands, in their pockets. So in basic economic terms, if you are doing a business and at the end of the day that business is not giving you any return, then why would you do that business if your survival is not at stake? And that was the point with agriculture sector or with farmers. It was just, as you are aware, the egg farming for survival only. Their survival was at stake. They have got nothing else to do. That's why they were engaged in agriculture. Otherwise, there was no incentive, monetary incentive or any other kind of incentive with farmers to engage in agriculture. Now the third point was commercialization of agriculture. Commercialization of agriculture means production of cash crops instead of subsistence crop. For example, Britishers asked Indian farmers of some particular places to grow and produce tea, coffee, sugar cane, cashew, these type of crops which they could use in their factories in England as raw material. So they promoted this commercialization of agriculture in different places of the country or different places of India. So, and we can substantiate this claim that the productivity of those cash crops at that particular place, at those particular places increased, but there was a flip side to this as well. We can say that now farmers have got money in hand, so their situation must have improved, but rather than this, farmers situation, instead of improving, it kind of had a negative impact on the situation of farmers. Why? Let us talk. Means because now you have got a piece of land, you can either produce subsistence crop like wheat, rice, or you can produce cash crops. You are a farmer. If you are producing cash crops, you produced sugar cane, you got some money. Now you need to purchase subsistence crops, you need to purchase wheat, you need to purchase rice first thing. So your money will go there as at an individual level. Now at an aggregate level, if more and more farmers will put their land to use to produce cash crops, then the production of subsistence crops will decrease. Less supply will increase the price, things will become expensive. Got my point? At individual level, you need to purchase everything. At aggregate level, production of subsistence crops decreased, which make them expensive, and it is considered still one of the main causes of frequent famines at different parts of the country. So there was definitely a positive side that the farmers have got money in their hand, but the negative side was rather bigger than positive side. So this was also commercialization of agriculture was also a point of agricultural stagnation. So that's it for today, students. Today we discussed the causes of low level of economic development. Then we talked about stagnation of agricultural sector. We will be taking point like this in our subsequent lessons, and we will be talking about this industrial sector, foreign trade, occupational structure, and all that in our forthcoming lessons. And other than this, don't forget, in July we will definitely have an exam of 3 hours, first thing. Second thing, after the completion of your May quiz, we will again start quiz in the month of June. You will get your date sheet maybe today or by latest by tomorrow. So keep preparing, keep giving your 8 to 10 hours daily, which I sincerely hope and assume as well in some cases that you are giving. So that's it for today. Stay healthy, stay inside, stay safe. Bye.